I visited the most expensive piece of farmland in the world. It's a vineyard here in Burgundy, owned by Domaine de la Romanée Conti. I wanted to visit this place because soon it might not be worth the estimated 2.3 billion euros it's currently valued at. And the reason for that is alarming. Because it's not just this piece of land that will likely see a decrease in value soon, it's also the other vineyards in this area, and in fact a lot of farmland across Europe and even the world. And what's interesting is that we're about to see a lot of changes in agriculture specifically. You see, there's a few key things that make a place suitable for growing a specific crop. The temperature, humidity, sunlight, type of soil, grade of the hill, and even the wind combine to create unique conditions perfect for different crops and especially wine. And these conditions are what's changing. See, since 1988, the date of Burgundy's wine harvest has moved about 2 weeks earlier, meaning grapes need less time to ripen and the season is moved forward. For now, this hasn't been a bad thing as it has produced some of the best Burgundy wines in history. But because of these rising temperatures, in the not too distant future, Burgundy's great sites for growing wine could become too warm to produce the same quality as they do now. In fact, on some parts of Burgundy, the ideal wine growing location has already started to shift uphill from where it was before. By 2050, entire French wine-producing regions like Bordeaux are expected to face lower suitability for winemaking, possibly reaching the temperature limits for growing red grapes. While Burgundy may be spared the worst for now, there's no telling when the temperature will stop rising or when it will rise too high to make decent wines at all. So where would the best wines in the world come from in the future if not from France? Well, the answer might surprise you, and a perfect way to illustrate this point is with Champagne, as the chalky limestone soil in the Champagne region of France is what gives Champagne its mineral flavor. So how could that possibly be replicated somewhere else? Well, southern England soil is chalky just like in Champagne, but the climate has been too cold to grow grapes like Chardonnay or Pinot Noir, which means traditionally they had to grow lesser varieties that make inferior wine. But now, they can grow grapes they never could before, and they're producing sparkling wine with the same grapes and production method as Champagne. Some French winemakers from Champagne are even planting new vineyards in England. It sounds absolutely insane that you can get such high quality wine in England, which leads me to the sponsor of this video, Bright Cellars. A sponsor I fought really hard to get, so let me explain why. Bright Cellars is a wine box that gets tailored specifically to you and your taste buds. They do this with their quick 7-question quiz where they get an understanding of your preferences. And when you receive your box of wine, there's also education cards in it, so you know what to pair the wine with and what the ideal serving temperature is. It's a great way to try new and exciting wines from all over the world, and since they send the wine directly to you, there's no wasted time in a liquor store trying to pick out a wine based off just a label. And what's amazing is that Bright Cellars is giving you guys a limited time offer of 50% off of your first 6-bottle box. Oh, and packaging is completely recyclable, plastic free, and they have the smallest carbon footprint in the entire industry. So click the link in the description to get started and try out some of the best wines from some of the best regions in the world. Thanks again to Bright Cellars for sponsoring this video. Alright, so what's alarming about all this is that the growing conditions in southern England today are already being compared to the Champagne region in the 1980s. The reason for this is obviously climate change. As the climate gets warmer, the ideal conditions for certain wines go further north. That fragility is why in winter 2021, Burgundy's vineyards were full of paraffin heaters to keep the vines from freezing, which just goes to show the extremes that these farmers are going to keep their traditions alive. Although ultimately, freezing temperatures led to a loss of about a third of the harvest for 2021, producing only 99.7 million liters of wine compared to the average of 145 million liters. Wine grapes are considered a bellwether for climate change, as are some other plants like coffee bushes. This means the region that grow wine will likely shift north over the next 30 years, and the current wine growing area will shrink by 25%. But it also means that other plants will eventually face similar issues. Major weather and climate shifts are already influencing crop yields and livestock productivity in all of Europe. And in some regions of southern Europe, the value of farmland is projected to drop more than 80% by 2100, which could cause many farmers to abandon agricultural land altogether. And that's a big deal because Europe produces 1/8 of the world's grain output, 2/3 of its wine and 3/4 of its olive oil. Climate change is causing serious adaptation issues for farms across Europe, disrupting patterns farmers have relied on for generations. Take rain, for example. Since the 1960s, Northern Europe has had up to 70 millimeters more rain each decade, while in the south there is 90 millimeters less. The most affected regions are the Mediterranean and Southeast Europe, due to decreases in rainfall and higher temperatures, both resulting in longer, more intense droughts and water scarcity. At least 22 million European farmers and agricultural workers are directly exposed to climate extremes. But that's not the only way climate change is destroying Europe's agriculture. It's also creating the perfect conditions for invasive species like the bacterium, and I'm gonna butcher this name, Xylella fastidiosa. This microscopic menace has already infected more than 20 million olive trees, causing over $1.2 billion in damage. According to several studies, the bacterium first arrived in Italy in 2008 on a coffee plant, and then mutated to infect olive trees in the southern region of Apulia, where it killed millions of plants. The bacteria also causes diseases in other important crops like grapes and citrus. Because of rising temperatures, the area for insects carrying the disease could dramatically increase, causing major damage to European agriculture. But there might be a much bigger problem on the horizon. See, traditional products like Galician blonde beef in Spain or the Pomodoro di Partino tomatoes in Italy are, I'm completely butchering those names as well, are certified for their unique origin source and production methods. So if these regions suddenly can't produce these products anymore, they will need to alter production techniques which could irreversibly alter Europe's food culture and economy. Or worse, they could end up in a position where they no longer can produce these products. This is why there's no quick fix to adapt European agriculture to climate change. It will require an ambitious plan to preserve local gastronomic culture while adopting cutting-edge technology. While I'm not saying coffee or wine will disappear altogether, the wines currently enjoying their best years could worsen if a heating climate continues to alter the taste and balance of wine each year. And the solutions we currently have aren't exactly great. Some American wineries add sugar to balance acidity, which would be unthinkable to do in Burgundy, where winemaking techniques are as old school as you could possibly imagine. Instead, in Burgundy, they're testing more robust plant varieties which can resist low water and high heat. But the problem with that is they also have a different taste. On top of that, they're also relying less on techniques like aging in oak barrels to make the wine richer, as the grapes are already richer than usual. Winemakers may even resurrect old grape varieties that took too long to ripen in the previous climate. In the long run though, a changing climate means a future glass of Burgundy may not taste like a Burgundy anymore. And that's a problem because France is one of the world's top wine producers, exporting 5 billion liters of wine in 2015, only second after Italy. France has thousands of years of experience producing wine. But let's not forget, France isn't the only country with a wine industry facing danger. Italy's Emilia-Romagna, I completely butchered that as well, wine growing region also saw higher temperatures, shifts in the growing season and other major changes over the past 60 years. Countries like Australia, Chile and South Africa will also undergo a reduction in ideal wine growing areas. However, Chile and Australia will benefit from new regions suitable for winemaking, like Tasmania in Australia. But this comes at an environmental cost as vineyards reduce environmental diversity and introduce pesticides and other intensive farming practices to the environment. New vineyards can also reduce the habitats of vulnerable species like pandas. And this is a bit of a sidetrack and also a bit strange, but even China is getting into wine. Moet et Chandon, I completely butchered that as well, the French maker of sparkling wines, opened a winery in the Ningxia region of China in 2013 and now sells China-made sparkling wines to the growing Chinese wine market. Which sounds pretty ridiculous, right? I mean, Chinese-made sparkling wine? But anyway, in traditional winemaking regions, existing vineyards may also cause a bigger environmental impact than before. Hotter temperatures mean more moisture will evaporate out of the soil, and farmers may have to use irrigation to maintain grape quality. other wine growing regions around the world, including Australia and South Africa and the Bordeaux region of France, have recently dealt with horrible wildfires. For now though, the effects of hotter temperatures have mostly been beneficial for Burgundy. In the years to come, however, how will Burgundy and France's 10 other wine producing regions and Europe's agricultural industry adapt to a warming climate? Well, I guess only time will tell, but that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.